Greetings, one and all. How's your 2023 going? Well, it's a bit of a cold winter, but I do try and get out to the woods when I can and go for a walk in the fields just to get myself out of the concrete world and into Mother Nature. Maybe you don't have many natural places you can go to where you live, but I do highly recommend getting out into the countryside somehow, if possible, once a day. Once a week's good, once a month if that's the only time you can do it, even just a walk in the park, go and find some trees, perhaps, I don't know, do a bit of community gardening or something, just doing something at one with nature. And then I was talking to some people about gods and goddesses, and we were just discussing the common mother, let's say, the goddess of is Earth a goddess? I'm quite into the Gaia theory. The goddess is a living, breathing, the earth is a living, breathing being. She's a goddess. She gives us air, she gives us plant life, she gives us a world to live upon, she gives us animals to work with, fish to swim with, eat, whatever, birds in the skies. She's there for us, she's our, without her, we couldn't be here. And I do feel like the earth is a female entity, but that's how I feel. And I think many people kind of go along with Mother Nature, the idea of Mother Nature being part of the world, obviously. Are we part of Mother Nature? Does Mother Nature work for us or do we work for Mother Nature? I quite like the idea of maybe this planet isn't for us, that it's really for the plants and the trees and all the fauna of this world, who needs our breath for them to breathe. Like we need their breath for us to breathe. We breathe out CO2, they breathe it in, turn it into oxygen and breathe it out so that we can breathe, sort of a cyclical way of being on this planet. And we get, usually most of us get buried back into the earth or scattered with our ashes back onto the planet. Maybe that helps with the firmament and is kind of like a compost for the land, our dead bodies. I hope to be buried when I die. I'd like to hopefully be in a casket that will decompose in its own rate, that will then feed the soil, feed the worms, whatever. Again, being part of hopefully the world system going round, Mother Gaia. And then I found this quote from Gurdjieff about Mother Nature. And this is from All and Everything. He's talking about walking at sunset over the hills and dales and willy-nilly perceiving the exterior visibility of those enchanting parts of the bosom of great nature, the common mother, and involuntarily inhaling a pure air uncontaminated by the usual exhalations of industrial towns. And in this part of the book, he's talking about this Kurd who's walking around and went and bought the red peppers because they thought they looked so delightful, but he didn't realize how hot they were going to be. And some of you might have seen my statues of Beelzebub to represent Beelzebub's tales to his grandson. And in a lot of them, I've got Beelzebub handing a red pepper to people because Gurdjieff is saying symbolically that his book is like a red pepper. You bite into it, it's too hard, you can't handle it, but you want more of it. So, you learn, your taste buds learn to climatize to accept that taste. It's doing something to your body, but you're not quite sure what, but it's actually doing something that's good for you. Many people bite into it and go, too much, throw it away. So they can't continue the Gurdjieff work because they just don't know how to do this kind of work. Anyway, let me carry on. Our Kurd, quite naturally, suddenly felt a wish to gratify himself with some ordinary food also. So sitting down by the side of the road, he took from his provisional bag, some bread and the fruit, one of the gifts of great nature he had bought, which had looked so good to him, and leisurely began to eat. And then it goes into the story of the red pepper. But we must also remember that nature does give us the fruits that we eat. It provides us many fruits. And then if we look back at the old, let's take, for example, the Genesis story of the first humans in Eden, that rascally snake serpent devil, whatever, comes along and offers them the fruit that they're not allowed to eat. It tempts them. And so that fruit's kind of put us all into a bit of a bad situation because we get thrown out of Eden. But at the same time, has it freed us? Has it given us the freedom to go forth and be true humans? And I find it quite interesting that in the Bible it talks about, because of that, the God then gave everybody skins. And I like to think that maybe in the paradise in Eden, we weren't these bodily beings that we are now. Maybe we were more of an ephemeral, spiritual being. I know that kind of sounds a bit Rudolf Steinery, but I'm wondering if Gurdjieff attains to this as well. We were different kinds of human then, of a different nature, a more spiritual, in tune with the divine nature until we were tempted away with the apple. Well, if it was an apple, because the Bible also says a fruit, doesn't specify which fruit. Some people say it was an acorn. Some people say it was, a pear. We don't actually know what fruit it is, but for some reason, apple is the one that sticks in most people's minds. So I need to figure out where that idea came from. And especially since if we look at things like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, it is the apple that Snow White's given that puts her to sleep. It has the poison in it. Awaiting the kiss from the prince, which could be, a way that everyone's been put to sleep by eating the apple. And that kiss of the prince is finding the spiritual or esoteric writings that awaken us to what's really going on. But anyway, this is about nature, this show. We're supposed to be grateful for nature and being on this planet. We should be grateful for many things, that we have our lives. Okay, we don't have easy lives. We must be grateful for all the accidents and the things that are put in our way in our development. But being grateful is one of the higher vibrations, and we're trying to attain to get to the higher. But I also think working with Mother Earth and nature gives us a better understanding of the planet and hopefully onto the laws. Did a show recently on the cosmic laws, very brief one, but I've done other shows on the cosmic laws that you can look up and find out about. And I've done talks with Josh on the cosmic laws that Gurdjieff discusses. And I know there are a lot to ponder on, trying to understand how we fit into this universe on this planet. How do we fit in with nature? As we know, many people on this planet are trying to control nature, where nature is quite chaotic. She's got a mind of her own. How dare we try to take control of her, be in charge of her? I find it quite upsetting that when I go out into villages, they're not as countrified as they used to be. Or I go into local towns, everyone's concreting over their gardens. No one seems to want to do gardening anymore. Though I have a lot of friends who are gardeners, paid as their job, and go and work in other people's gardens. So that's good for them. They're getting lots of work because nobody can be bothered to work in their gardens anymore. I've been on a waiting list for an allotment for years because it's really hard to get an allotment around here. So I have to do a lot of my own kind of in little pots grow stuff, which is just nowhere near as good as having a good old allotment to go and work upon. As many of you know, I love to grow my aloe vera. It's gone a bit crazy again this year. I had to repot a load of it and pass it on to other people. I think they're lovely gifts to give to people. And then I've had a few friends say to me, I can't look after a plant. Well, I think everybody can. You just need to have the will and the effort to look after a plant. Like we need a will and an effort to look after the pets we have. We need will and effort to look after the families that we are thrown into in this life. And we need will and effort to look after ourselves. But I do strongly believe that by looking after nature, being a part of nature, being aware of nature, nature works for us as well. I know quite a few people that absolutely hate nature. And what's even funnier is, and I know they don't watch these shows, so it doesn't matter that I say this, they're the kind of people that birds shit on when they fly over them. They're the kind of people that the squirrel attacks or the dog barks at. Animals are very sensitive and they are aware of people that likes nature. And in many of the old stories of the gurus or the Buddha or the monks, Even Gurdjieff, they all have this air about them that understands what nature is and being a part of nature and working with nature on this planet. So animals like them. You know, Gurdjieff, there's all these old stories about how we'd be walking across the grounds of the prairie, and the cats and the dogs and the birds that live on the prairie would all be following him in a line. I think that's just delightful. How wonderful is that? I'm just going to throw a little bit of Rudolf Steiner in now. He says it's very important to try and connect with nature, try to make that contact with the birds in the trees or the little mice that you might see running across, your garden path or whatever. Getting to know dogs and cats, getting to know your pets. And we all love our pets, hopefully. Hopefully there's no people out there pet bashing. I'm sure people that watch these kind of shows are ones that adore their animals. They are part of the divine source's creation. So we should be loving them as much as they love us. Don't pets just love us? Unless we're being cruel to them. But okay, someone's going to argue with me. Pets only love you so you feed them. I've had that many argument with people. Well, I think they have a different sense of what compassion is and love, obviously. And of course, they're grateful that we're looking after them and then we're putting a roof over their heads and keeping them out from being out in the cold. But I also know there's many people out there that treat animals awfully, and I pray for them all the time and that they would awaken to their conscience of how they're treating animals. And also, we should be working, like we're saying, with the plants and the trees, watching the rivers flow, watching real water flowing along is quite mesmerizing. Maybe if we concentrate enough and work with them, the waters, the air, the trees, and such lot enough, you might begin to see the elementals that live within them. Done a few shows about the elementals, and I definitely recommend the ones that I've done with Tim Wyatt. He's done some great books on spiritual development. And I know many people poo-poo, elementals, they don't really exist. But they do if you're working in this kind of work, because you begin to see beyond this exterior realm that we're looking at. And I find by people working on themselves, whether they're meditating, praying, and so on, over time, they're beginning to lift that veil so that they can see what else there is walking on this planet with us. And okay, that's going to perhaps bring in a little bit of a darkness here, that you can also see the dark forces. Perhaps out of the corners of your eye, you see that dark shadow flitting across the room. On that kind of thing, I do suggest of prayers of being kept in the light, prayers that to your God to ask for protection and the archangels to watch over you and to make sure. You need to be aware of the darkness to balance everything out, but it doesn't mean you need to walk down a dark path. You need to stay on the path of the light. Within nature, there's elementals that work in nature. You've got your gnomes, your sylphs, and such like. Please see the show I did with Tim about that. I'll try to remember to add it at the end of this show. And they all want to work with us in a way that's working with the divine. And if we don't, they start getting itchy fingers and go off and work for the dark forces instead, according to Steiner. I'd love to discuss with Gurdjieff that kind of thing and see what he has to say. Though he would probably come around to saying something like, just work on yourself for now. Not enough of you are developed enough to start working in them kind of areas. Work on yourselves, work with nature, appreciate nature and appreciate yourself and these opportunities we're being given to develop ourselves. And as we go forward into 2023, let's use this year to really, I was going to say, remind you of my first show of the year, of the new year, when I did the obligononi and strivings. Let's implement them into our lives and go forward, working for ourselves, for the divine source, and for everybody else that's waiting for us to help them and wants help. So I hope this show helps you. It helps me to do these shows. And, if you know other people that would be interested in this kind of work, please tell them about my shows so that we can spread the word, maybe encourage other people to take this kind of work up. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Get out there into the countryside.